What are you cooking today, Miss Martha? Well, I'm making peanut butter biscotti. If you've seen any of my other videos, you know that biscotti is all about organization. It looks like it's a really difficult process because you've got a 20-minute bake, then they've got to cool 20 minutes, then they've got to be sliced, and they've got to bake another 20 minutes. It's time consuming, but you've got that 20 minutes in between time that you can be doing other things. So it's not really that complicated to make. You just need have a few items to prepare with. You need a pastry board, a rolling pin, a very sharp knife, a wire rack, quality baking sheets, and parchment paper. You're going to need 5 different bowls because you're going to set out, we're going to have a dry bowl, a wet bowl, a add-in bowl, a little side set, well it's actually a measuring cup instead of a bowl, for the flaxseed because it's vegan, so we're using that instead of egg, and you're going to need a topping bowl for the little raw sugar and sea salt topping that goes on it to give it that nice little crunch on top of the other crunch of the biscotti twice baked Italian cookies. So let's run through the ingredients real quick and then we'll get things separated out into the bowls because these biscotti videos can run all afternoon. So I'm just gonna pick up at each stage and let you see as we go along. So let's start off first going through the ingredients. Plain flour, almond flour, peanut butter powder, baking powder, salt. That's your dry ingredients. Simple enough. Wet ingredients. You could use any plant-based meals that you wanted to. I happen to have macadamia milk, so that's what I'm using. Almond oil. You could also use any oil that you want to, but this combination works out really well with the peanut butter. Almond extract, just a little bit. Don't overpower it. We don't want it to taste like almonds. It's going to be peanut butter biscotti. Brown sugar, white sugar. And the other ingredients that are going to go into the wet bowl are, my husband must be home from work, that's what the dogs are telling me. I've got to warm up some water and dissolve my flax seed into it, and that's going to be my egg substitute. That'll go in the wet bowl. My add-ins for the peanut butter biscottis is a peanut butter granola, honey roasted peanuts, and have another honey glaze. These are larger peanuts. I'm not going to chop the nuts. I'm going to leave them whole because also that adds to the texture appeal of the biscotti. The last ingredients are your toppings, which are your, I always say it wrong, turbinado. I just call it raw sugar. It's large, crunchy chunk sugar and coarse sea salt. We're going to mix that and that'll be our little topping. So if you'll give me just a minute, I'll divide the ingredients out. I'll go see what's got the dogs barking out there and we'll pick back up on the peanut butter biscotti. Go get yourself a cup of coffee and I'll see you in just a minute. Okay, let's touch base. We've got all of our wet ingredients here. Dry ingredients. Our add-ins. And our topping. So it's just a matter of mixing everything together and then we'll pick back up as I roll it out. All the ingredients and the directions are all always listed in the description of Miss Martha Loves to Cook, the cookbook page on YouTube. See you in a minute. Stay with me. I'm just touching base to let you see the dough consistency. It's got to be about the size like you're making peanut butter cookies. All right, we're going to wash my hands and put the add-ins in. Okay, everything's mixed together with the biscotti. The only thing's not on, once you get it into the loaves, the classic biscotti shape, you know, like a little arch mound, so that when you cut it, it'll be nice for dipping in wine, tea, coffee, hot chocolate, milk. I don't dip mine, I eat it just the way it is. Anyway, you might have to use a little extra flour when you're rolling it out at this point so all your add-ins will stay in. I'm going to cut this in half and then in half again, and then I'll make my sheets. Pans have been coated with the parchment paper, and I'll put the loaves on here. A tip for transferring the loaves. You try to pick them up with hand, sometimes they'll crumble and fall apart, and then you don't want a cracked up biscotti. You want to have pretty little slices when you get it sharp, and you have to use a really good sharp knife when you're cutting it. Those are the two. But I use a long spatula to help transfer it to the baking sheets. Oops. And a really sharp knife when I'm cutting. So we'll pick back up. Each of the quarters will be rolled out. Where's my roller pin? Here we go. To be the length of the baking sheet. And then I'll cut it in half so I can transfer it over. If I tried to pick the whole thing up, it would crack and break. So pick back up in a minute. Okay, it's rolled out so it could fit, as you can see, it could fit in half of the sheet here. However, for it to have its classic biscotti shape, you've got to go in with your hand at an angle so that you're pressing it down on the corners, on the outside edge, so you're making kind of a mound out of it. And straighten it back up. Perfect. Okay, I'll cut that in half and I'll move that over and I'll repeat with the other. And this one, my oven is preheated at 330 degrees. My rack has been moved up to the second rack from the top of the oven so they won't brown on the bottom. And I'll check them once I have them in there at the 30-minute mark. And if I touch them and they still feel moist to my finger, they'll go a little bit longer. If not, I'll bring them out and let those cool. I'll put the next pan in. And once those have cooled for 20 minutes, I'll slice them at the angle so I get the longest possible biscotti shapes out of that. They'll lay down on their side. Back into for the second bake, so we'll pick back up. All right, this is my coarse sugar and salt mixture. We're going to sprinkle that over the top. Then we'll put them in the bake. Heavy pan. So we'll show how pretty they look. You see? Okay, peanut butter biscotti. It's vegan. These will go on to bake at 330 degrees for 30 to 45 minutes, depending upon how they dry out for me. Then make sure your rack's up higher, and we'll pick back up. I've got to go ahead and get the next batch shaped out, put them on the other baking sheet, top them off with the sugar salt mixture, and by that time these should be coming out. Put on a wire rack to cool. And I'll use my cutting board and I'll slice them with my very sharp knife at an angle. And they will go back into the flat on their side for their second bake. So we'll pick back up. If somehow or another my husband comes in, I got to stop and do, I'll just make the thumbnail be the finished picture of all of the biscotti, because you know this stuff could just run on forever. And I've started later in the day here working on this because I, trying to work on my painting, trying to work on the garden, dealing with the chihuahuas. I just had some paperwork I had to do for the electrical contractor business that we run. So I've had a lot going on, but I did want to make the peanut butter biscottis today, and they're vegan. So we'll pick back up in a minute. If I'm not here, then I'm baking. Okay, timer's about ready to go off. We'll take the first batch out of the oven. They needed the full 45 minutes on their first bake because, you think peanut butter powder, because it's dry and it goes in the dry ingredient section of the bake, you think that's a dry. It's not, because by the time it gets added to the liquid, it becomes a peanut butter within the cookies, and that adds extra moisture to the bake. So it has to have a little bit longer. Instead of the 30, you had to go the whole 45 minutes. So it's getting ready to beat. Let's go ahead and take those out. Woo, steam. Hot. Beautiful. You see, that's just the first bake. I'll have to reset the timer. All right. Second batch is going in for their first 45 minutes bake. And we'll pick back up. Okay, these have to cool before I try to transport them over to the pastry board, the cutting board, and slice them at their diagonal angle here, or they'll crack and they'll crumble, and you won't have your nice little biscotti strips. So, luckily my husband's not home from work yet, so I've still got time that I can be recording. But if I have to stop because family time takes precedence over Miss Martha YouTube time, like I said, the thumbnail will be the finished bake. So these will cool. We'll cut them at diagonal. We'll lay them down on their side. They'll go back into a lower temperature oven at 300 degrees for 30 minutes. And then they'll come out and have to cool thoroughly before you put them in any kind of airtight container. Because if you put the lid on them, it would just make condensation, and there goes the whole point of baking them twice to get crispness in your biscotti if you put condensation back into it. So I'll go full close or something while I'm waiting for those to bake. Maybe take the dogs out to go potty. See you in a minute. All right, we're at the slicing stage of the first batch. We'll cut them at an angle. Hear that crunch? Listen to that. Yeah. I'll show you how pretty they look. They've still got to go back in for their second bake though. Okay, I'll finish doing this off camera because my videos always run so long. Don't begrudge me a little taste. You hear that crunch? It's still got second bake though. Okay, I'm gonna show you how beautiful. Now these will go back in when the second batch comes out of the oven and they cool and I slice them. Second batch comes out of the oven. These will go in. I can lower the temperature down to 300. This will just show you how beautiful they look. Peanut butter biscotti. I'm gonna go ahead and pause the video or turn the video off today on the peanut butter biscotti. The recipe will be in the description. I'll let the thumbnail be the full picture of all of the biscottis. My dogs need to go out. I've got to get dinner on the table. So thank you for watching. I hope you'll click the like and subscribe button. God bless you. See you soon.